Hi everyone, it's Dawn from Quillia Minis, and I wanted to show you what I was doing with my sharpened foam brush. Now, of course, I have lots of dowels in my stash that I could have used, but I wanted to show you some ways you can pick up things from the Dollar Tree and use them in an alternative way. So these are typically very easy to shape because the wood tends to be a little less dense. So you can use a pencil sharpener to sharpen the ends of these, or you can cut it with a craft knife. If you're using a craft knife, always be sure to cut away from you and cut down onto a surface if possible. Now, once it's cut, I like to fatten them up a little bit by placing just a little bit of fabric around the middle to give them a tiny bit of a belly. And I usually do that in 2 layers. So this is the second layer where I've wrapped all the way around. After this, what you're going to do is cut a piece of fabric that's just a tiny bit larger than the diameter of this and just a tiny bit above the center. And when you do that, what will happen is you'll typically have a gap. So what I like to do is cut little lines in there. So when you're gluing these down, you can then put one tab at a time down. And when you do that, it tends to overlap a little bit, but it ends up not being so bulky. You can also cut little triangles out, or if you have pinking shears, those are even better because once you use the pinking shears, then you can just pretty easily use the triangles to cut all the way down. And by the way, if you're wondering what this pink thing is, this is actually for cosmetics. It's a glue applicator for, I think, eyelashes, if I recall. Normally, there's a little bit of cotton at the end. I just rip that off and I use that for my glue so I don't have to get my hands all sticky. As you know, getting your hands sticky is part of being in miniatures. Anyway, so if you take this and fully glue this, then what you're going to be left with is just a belly. And now it's time to put on the arms and the nose and the hair. To make the arm, I usually take a piece of fabric and roll the arms at once. Now, to do this, I take a piece of fabric and put a little bit of fabric inside and then roll it. And these pom-poms are ones that I've colored with pastels and then rolled them in glue. So after they're done, they're pretty hard, but then you can cut them in half and place them on each side. But once it's done, you can then cut these in half and you have 2 arms to then place on either side of these. Once you do that, then it's just a matter of putting the beard on. For the beard, you can use faux fur. There's a ton of this that you can get in the craft stores, or you can use wool roving. Wool roving tends to be a little bit more bumpier, so it looks more natural. And after you do that, you put the nose on, and then the last step is to take the hat and place it just over the nose and glue it. Now, when I do this, I glue the entire hat so that I can then scrunch it down. So you can see in this example, I've squished it down just a little bit. Now, this is green because I wanted to do some St. Patrick's Day gnomes. You can see this one is done with the wool roving. I don't know if you can see that. There's the wool roving. And this one is made with the fun fur, and that's a little nail decoration on the end. But to tell you the truth, I really don't prefer using the calico. I prefer using the knit fabric because it scrunches up so much more easily, and I think it looks cuter. So I have a bunch of these that I've done in the past for Christmas. Sometimes I'll put a little loop at the end in order to make a little Christmas ornament. Sometimes I'll leave the bottom open so you don't need fabric. You can just do the beard right on the wood. There are lots of different options for these. This one you can see the little loop on. But I hope this gives you an idea of just some of the things that you can do with some basic supplies to make some really cute St. Patrick's Day miniatures. If you have any questions, please let me know and have fun making minis.